Today we are joined by Dr. Niels Prins from the Brain Research Center in Amsterdam, and we're going to be discussing the latest on Alzheimer's medicine research, as well as the future of the disease's treatment in general. Hello, Dr. Prins. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for agreeing to have this interview. We have some interesting questions. First one of them, just starting a little bit further. The disease of Alzheimer's is still largely a mystery, if I can say so, not fully understood. What has been your latest learning about the disease, something that has surprised you, or an interesting fact that you have come across?
Yes, well, it's not so much a latest learning, but I think what I learned over the years is how complicated and multifactorial the disease is. Because when I did my basic training, I thought that Alzheimer's disease was a disease. It was about amyloid plaques and tau tangles, but now we know it's way more complicated than that, and that there are so many factors involved, and also therefore by different pathways to target with drugs.
And well, what do you personally think is the most promising Alzheimer's treatment that is currently in development? If you can share any opinion on that.
Yeah. I'm not able to pick a single one, but there are, as I said, there are many different compounds directed at many different targets. I see that there's a trend that if we look at the more traditional targets, namely amyloid and tau, we see very novel techniques to influence these pathologies. And then you can think of drugs that work on the DNA level, for instance. So very novel approaches. On the same hand, we see more traditional approaches like small molecules being directed at whole new targets. And so one target, for instance, is inflammation, which also plays an important role in Alzheimer's disease. And there I see also that there's a lot going on.
Is there anything going on in terms of prevention? Also,
yes. So I think the ideal scenario is to prevent Alzheimer's disease or to cure Alzheimer's disease before dementia sets in. So to prevent dementia. And there are several programs where they try to, in people who are not diseased, so they're not patients yet, but do have an increased risk of becoming a patient in the future, to treat these people to prevent the Alzheimer symptoms, actually.
Speaking of, well, addressing it in terms of treatment, in the last few years, there have been 3 new medicines in the world approved for Alzheimer's disease, and all of them are anti-amyloid therapies. Do you think that this is because this direction in research is the most promising one at the moment, or is the fact that there are several medicines of this type available more an effect of pharma companies trying to compete for market share?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's probably both. So I would not say it's the most promising direction, but it's a direction where a lot of time, effort and money has been invested in. So there's a long tradition of looking at, so how can we influence the amyloid deposition, prevent it, or if the amyloid plaques are there, how can we then break them down and remove them? Because it seems like a very logical approach, but we have learned over the years that it's also actually quite difficult. There are now, as you mentioned, a couple of compounds, all monoclonal antibodies, so all from the same chemical drug class, directed to almost the same target, because there are little differences in the kind of amyloid they remove. But yeah, it's very important to realize, and I think also you were hinting at that in your question, that there are many more chemical drug classes that can be of use in treating Alzheimer's, and there are also many more drug targets. And it's very important that also we spend a lot of time and effort on working on these, and not only focusing on antibodies against amyloid.
Yeah. So some neurologists share an opinion that the next breakthrough in Alzheimer's treatment is probably coming within 5 years, and most likely it's going to be a combination of treatments or medicines rather than one single medicine. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. I think the future of Alzheimer treatment is personalized medicine. We know that Alzheimer is a very heterogeneous disease in terms of genetics, but also in co-pathology, etc., etc. So I do believe that it will be a combination of drugs tailored to the individual characteristics of the patient. That will be the future.
Yeah.
And how long it will take before we're there is very difficult to predict. We tend to overestimate the progress we can make in 2 years' time, but tend to underestimate the progress we can make in 5 to 10 years' time. So hopefully we'll get there soon.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's also still a lot of work to do.
Well, all the newest Alzheimer's medicines, they originate from the USA. That's where they get the first global approval. Do you think that Europe is in a position to also be the initiator of a new Alzheimer's treatment anytime soon, or are we doomed to be second in line?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's good to realize that some of the compounds that are now being marketed by US companies actually were invented in Europe. So I hope that that Europe will keep on playing an important role in innovation. Having said that, I also think that we must be careful in Europe not to stay behind, not only behind the US, but also in Asia, so China, South Korea. I think a lot is invested in drug development. Yeah. And I think, we need to step up our game in Europe to keep our position as is.
Do you think it's mainly a matter of financing, or?
No, it's much more. Yeah, financing for sure is very important, but it's also about mindset. So an innovative mindset, having the right, platforms in place to be able to drive innovation. And also organizing and managing, and also having putting the right infrastructure in place.
Yeah. And how do you think that the Netherlands is doing compared to other countries when it comes to Alzheimer's research, and also the treatment approaches that Dutch doctors take?
So I think the Netherlands has a long-standing good tradition in basic science for Alzheimer's and also clinical research. Yeah. I think what we could do better is on the innovation part, and then it's more the translation part to the clinic. Mm-hmm. I think there's still room for improvement in the way we collaborate within the Netherlands, so collaboration between the different stakeholders, for instance, the public-private partnerships, because I see that there's still some hesitance, some reluctance on that part. But I personally, I think that is the way forward.
Yeah. Well, at the Brain Research Center, you have been involved in multiple clinical trials focusing on Alzheimer's, maybe not you personally, but of course the center as a whole. And what would you say is the biggest challenge in doing research in this field, but also in the Netherlands in general?
If I would have to pick one challenge, I would say recruitment of participants. And that has to do with the fact that at this moment there's still little awareness about the importance, but also the possibility to participate, and that holds for the healthcare practitioners and also for the patients and their caregivers. So if we could improve that, I think that would really help also in the development of more promising drugs for Alzheimer's.
Yeah. And is participation typically initiated by the healthcare provider, the GP or a geriatrician or neurologist, or by the patient themselves?
Yeah, it can be both. I think it is up to the patient to decide whether he or she wants to participate in a clinical trial based on good information, and also the caregiver is of course very important in that decision. But on the other hand, there's a very important role for the healthcare professional, for the medical specialist or GP, because he or she can inform a patient about the possibility to participate.
Yeah. So usually the first point of information is from the caregiver.
Yeah, at least they play a very important role. If we would see it as a journey, so a patient journey, there are several touch points where the patient will interact with the healthcare professional, and if he or she would then inform the patient about the possibility to participate in a trial, that would already help a lot.
Well, switching a little bit more to, again, the latest approved Alzheimer's medicines. As you probably were well aware, one of them was rejected by the EMA this year, but was approved by the MHRA in the UK. And in this context, do you feel that the EMA has been overly restrictive with Alzheimer's medicines, considering that no disease-modifying medicines are currently available in the EU at all?
Yeah, so I would not say that the EMA is too restrictive. I think it's very important to have the right checks and balances in place, and I think everybody plays his or her role in the final approval of drugs. I do worry a little bit about differences between countries or between regions. I think it can create unrest at the patient side, and maybe even induce medical tourism, which I think is not favorable.
Alzheimer's is more common among non-Caucasian patients, yet most of the clinical trials focus overwhelmingly on a Caucasian population. What do you think that are potential implications of this underrepresentations about the effectiveness and side effects that we can draw as a conclusion from these trials?
Yeah, that's a very important point. So in general, it's extremely important to, if you want to generalize results to the population at large, that you have everybody represented in your study population. So inequality related to access to clinical trials or access to healthcare in general, I think is a serious problem that fortunately now is recognized, and there are several initiatives to address it. But at the same time, it's also quite challenging, also here in the Netherlands, because we see that there's a selection of patients who are likely to participate in a clinical trial, and it's also correlated with socioeconomic status, for instance. So that's also an example of inequality.
Yeah. Do you at the Brain Research Center have any initiatives that are specifically focused on addressing this, or that's something for the plan?
We are discussing potential solutions with our clients and also partners. Yeah. And one of the but there are many challenges. So we have not come up with a solution yet, but we are aware of the problem, and we are trying to understand it better and then come up with the appropriate solutions.
A lot of patients and doctors reach out to everyone.org, and they're looking for ways to get access to the newest medicines in the world for Alzheimer's disease before they're available in the Netherlands and in Europe in general. Do you think that the European and specifically the Dutch healthcare system is in some way failing these patients and doctors if they have to go to a third party in order to get medicines that that are prescribed to them that they need?
That's an interesting and important question. I would not say that the Dutch system is failing, but again, I think the inequality as such is problematic, and it would, in that sense, be, I think, very good if we could find, if we could standardize better, and and by doing that, prevent these inequalities.
Well, do you have a message or advice that you would like to share with Dutch medical professionals who are dealing directly with Alzheimer's patients?
So my message would be to the healthcare professionals is please think about how you can contribute to getting promising drugs to future patients. And one thing is at least inform yourself about the possibilities of clinical trials, and inform your patients about the clinical trials that are running at the moment.
Well, on that note, do you also have a message or advice for Dutch or otherwise Alzheimer's patients who are maybe in doubt whether to join a clinical trial?
Yes, also I would say please contact us with your questions. We can provide you with a lot of information. A clinical trial is definitely not for everybody. In fact, there's only a minority of patients that are eligible and willing to join a clinical trial. But know that there is a possibility, and if you are interested, please reach out to us, and we can give you all the information for free, no strings attached, and then you can make an informed decision.
And maybe for as a closure, we at Everyone at Org, when we allow ourselves to dream of a utopian future, we think of one single global medicine approval body that eliminates these medicine access delays that we're seeing constantly now. What is your utopia?
We will be able in the future with a combination of lifestyle and prevention, but also I think precision medicine, to treat people before they get symptoms related to Alzheimer's, and that nobody will get demented and lose their cognitive functions and instrumental activities of daily living.
Well, we're definitely rooting for that utopia as well. Thank you very much for sharing all your insights and all your knowledge with us. And for anyone who has any questions about joining clinical research or just need some further information, you can reach out to the Brain Research Center and find out more.